Alright, what's up, humans? I'm going to be talking about this suicide bombing here that killed 32 people and injured 110 people in Baghdad. So basically, this is the first suicide bombing in nearly 2 years, which is sad that it's only been 2 years, but 2 years, I guess, is better than no years. But so what happened was suicide bombings were very common a couple years ago in Baghdad and other places with a lot of civilians, but as the U.S.-led coalition was able to push the terrorists back outside of the cities into the deserts and the mountains. They were in there hiding in the caves now, where out there in the outside the cities, so they haven't been able to do as much damage to civilians because the U.S.-led coalition has been driving them outside. But since there hasn't been as much activity now, we've been pulling troops out of the Middle East as of recent, and since we've been taking people out of there, there's less security and they don't feel as threatened anymore. So as recently, like, terrorist attacks have picked back up, where the U.S. embassy was attacked a couple months ago, and then just on January 22nd, now there was a twin suicide bombing, where one guy he came into it was basically like a market and outside, and he fell on the ground complaining that he was sick to get people to come over to him, and once there's a large group around him like trying to help him, he pressed like the detonator button on his belt and blew himself up. And then another guy came in on a motorcycle and then blew himself up too. And ISIS claimed responsibility for this, but there's been no like evidence that this was them. They could have just said that this kind of fits what they're trying to do, so they would just like figure like, well, we'll take someone else's work. But again, it doesn't said one way or another if it was them or not. But it certainly fits what they do because this was a dirtbag move, and ISIS is a dirtbag organization, I guess, if they're a group or whatever you want to call them. But just a couple articles here that I thought were interesting, that in their ISIS has like they somehow post things. I don't know how they're allowed to do that, but they claimed on their website that they were targeting the apostate Shiites, who are a section of Islam that's often at war, that's been at war with the Sunnis forever, which is who ISIS is, and they've been targeting them for a long time. And this basically just confirms again, the suicide bombing. He cried out that he was ill in the market, and then people gathered around him, and then he blew himself up, which is pretty messed up. See, but it says here this attack was the first in nearly 3 years at the capital, because everything, as it says here, has been in the deserts and outside the main, where all the main civilians are, because we've been doing a decent job at holding them outside of the city. But unfortunately, we've been taking our troops out because nothing's been happening, so we can't really justify having them there. But they're starting to come back a little bit. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future here, if we're going to have to send more troops or not. But if the suicide bombings keep happening, I think we're going to have a stronger response, because it's just really sad that like normal like law-abiding citizens are just getting caught in the middle of something that they weren't a part of, and they're dying because of it. So hopefully we figure this out and we get rid of ISIS.